Universal medicine is a controversial healing movement led by Serge Benhayon that's raised eyebrows worldwide. What started in Australia has spiraled into a global network, blending unproven practices with questionable beliefs. But behind the spiritual talk, some say there's a darker side, with claims of energy healing, past life karma, and even bizarre, and I do mean bizarre, treatments. The group has been accused of being a cult. Spoiler alert, it's a cult. Stick around as we dig into universal medicine, its rise, its followers, and the scandal that just won't go away. Welcome to Capers and Cocktails, a true crime podcast that doesn't take itself too seriously and gives you something to enjoy while you listen. The following content may be disturbing to some. Discretion is advised. If you're enjoying one of our themed cocktails, ensure you're of legal drinking age and have fun, but drink responsibly. Sergio Benhayon was born in Montevideo, Uruguay in 1964. He immigrated to Australia with his family when he was 6 years old in 1970. The Benhayon family settled in Sydney, where Sergio continued his schooling. Apparently, according to Sergio himself, he's been religious from an early age, and he's had quite the universal religious upbringing. He was circumcised by a Jewish mahal, but was baptized Catholic. As a child, he worshipped at the Church of England, and in his late teens became a student of Messianic Judaism. Apparently, his dad also taught him about the Quran. He would later say, quote, "I've never not believed in God," end quote. And clearly, well, this is true. I mean, is any of this true? I guess, who's to say? Not me. Well, maybe me, but later. But before we continue, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and do all the things you can do to help grow the podcast. I always appreciate it, you cocktail conspirators, my favorite people. When Sergio was 9, he lost a bit of his childhood innocence due to schoolyard bullies, likely because he was an immigrant. He was called a WOG, which evidently refers to residents of Southern European, Southeast European, or Middle Eastern ethnicity and or appearance. I guess the kids on the schoolyard didn't really know the difference between their continents. Regardless, this undoubtedly impacted Sergio, who at the very least decided, because of the taunts, to change his own name to Serge, which he still goes by today, and we will call him for the rest of the episode. He has also said that this experience pushed him to excel at sports, which led to a future in what was to be a promising sporting career. Ultimately, he would end up becoming a tennis coach and a Messianic cult leader, naturally. Serge married his first wife, Deborah, and together they had 4 children. In the early 1990s, Serge and his family moved to the far north coast of New South Wales, where he initially continued his career as a tennis coach. That was until 1999, when every semblance of a normal biography goes straight out the window, and according to the biography on his own website, quote, "A series of awakenings rekindled the active union with his soul, capital S, and the hierarchy, capital H," end quote. According to Serge himself, he received what he described as an energetic impress while on the toilet. Yep. Everybody, here we go. Okay, I'm just going to name this right now before we go. There is a lot here that's not really clear if it's in the past or present tense. Spoiler alert, a lot of this is still happening. So I might switch tenses some, but you're just going to go with it, like the good and gracious cocktail conspirators that I know that you are. Okay, so to remind you, Serge was on the toilet. And while he was sending some things into the universe, he was also in full receive mode. He received a very important, you might say, canon event, energetic impress. What does energetic impress mean? Well, your guess is as good as mine. But what has really gone down in the last 25 or so years is the formation and maturation of a cult. Not that they would say that, of course, but remember, if you have to tell people that it's not a cult, it probably is. And our fearless leader, Serge, the famed doctor, just kidding, tennis coach, developed what he deemed universal medicine based on his beliefs about energy. But first, please know that I guess when Serge was on the porcelain commode, he came to the realization that he was the reincarnation of Leonardo da Vinci, Pythagoras, Alice A. Bailey, Imhotep, and St. Peter. According to Serge, quote, "I know more than any scientist in my inner heart. I know everything about the universe and how it works. I can answer any question about any mystery in the world, any mystery in the universe," end quote. He's also quite humble, as you can see. Serge Benhayon created universal medicine's treatment methods based on the idea that energy imbalance from past and present mistakes causes sickness. According to Serge, there are two types of energy: prana, which is Sanskrit for life force, and fire. Prana is considered evil and should be replaced with fiery energy from the atomic womb of God. Universal medicine uses teas, herbal elixirs, lotions, and laminated healing symbol postcards to cleanse prana. I don't know how a postcard cleanses prana. You have to ask them. In universal medicine's worldview, pranic energy is found in countless everyday things, and it's always bad. A long and ever-growing list of once acceptable foods are off limits, declared to be full of dangerous pranic energy. Followers adhere to esoteric food charts, where Serge assigned foods a moral ranking. Evil: coffee, marijuana, ayahuasca. Pranic: bad energy: dairy, grains, root vegetables, mango, legumes, alternative proteins. And fiery: good energy: green apples, spinach, and red onions. According to Serge, pranic foods blocked the soul's light from entering the body, while fiery foods supposedly reconstructed a body of love and light. The more spiritually enlightened a person becomes, the less food they supposedly need. The reality: households, including children, were subjected to meals like sea vegetable bouillabaisse, broccoli and hazelnut soup, and grain-free, dairy-free, meatless seaweed lasagna. Yum! Followers have taken on a sickly gray-green appearance, their expressions vacant, their movements sluggish. At least one woman's health deteriorated so badly on this diet that her family actually staged an intervention. Reports surfaced of children crying from hunger. In one harrowing case, a 9-month-old baby became so malnourished that he was airlifted to intensive care, unresponsive and on the brink of death. Serge has dismissed concerns. He would say, quote, "Death is but a new beginning in the heart of a true servant," end quote. Nice. Serge lived by extreme discipline himself, eating only once a day, subsisting on fish and vegetables, and drinking nothing but water or cucumber spinach juice. If his followers mimicked him, the mercury poisoning from the excessive fish consumption could explain some of their symptoms: fatigue, mood swings, digestive issues, and for many young women, their menstrual cycles stopping altogether. Serge claims he has received exclusive transmissions of ageless wisdom from ascended masters, and claims he is also an ascended master, but also here. I don't know. His followers adhere to a strict lifestyle, avoiding alcohol altogether. Not even a single sip is permitted. Moderation is irrelevant. In universal medicine, I only drink as little is as abhorrent as I only watch a little child porn, according to one practitioner. Jeez. Serge insists that consuming alcohol allows dark spirits to enter the drinker's body, spirits that can then assault children in their vicinity. Okay, no booze. His restrictions extend beyond diet. Literature and music were banned unless created by Serge or his followers. Genres like rock, reggae, pop, funk, rap, and even the works of Bach contain pranic energy that his followers must avoid. Instead, universal medicine followers are encouraged to listen to only Serge-approved esoteric or glorious music created by artists like Miranda and Michael Benhayon or the official musician Chris James. WFMU music critic Micah Moses has sharply criticized these tracks, calling them, quote, "contemporary faux urban pop," end quote, and, quote, "imitation mainstream dreck," end quote, labeling them unplayable and dreadfully bad. It's not just music. TV, forbidden. Popular books, corruptive. Serge has an unusual vendetta against tampons, warning that, I'm sorry here, inserting one was akin to having sex with the dirtiest man imaginable throughout your period. Cats, too, are suspect. He claims they were controlled by dark forces known as the Lords of Form. One father told his son that humans were evolving into 11-foot-tall extraterrestrials and warned that failing to live esoterically would attract spirits capable of assaulting the household's women. Yes, Serge is into aliens, too. He would say that moving your elbow has a tremendous impact on life on Earth and also on the cosmos, whereas in other planets, they don't have arms and legs. I don't know. I'm not going any further into the aliens. There's just not enough time in the entire world for that. In his views on race, he claims that skin color evolution was a deliberate choice, with Asians supposedly choosing yellow skin as a symbol of intellect. Okay. He also argued that the desire for a lighter complexion emerged when black skin was unfairly associated with darkness. So not racist, but also racist. Got it. Even exercise has to be gentle and approved by Serge. Competitive sports and rigorous workouts are out of the question. Sleep schedules are strict. Bedtime before 9 p.m. because according to Serge, evil entities become active after dark. Followers are required to wake up at 3 a.m., which I think is still dark, but anyway, they fear possession if they fail to comply. children have developed anxiety, terrified of being attacked by spirits in the night. All of this stuff is kind of swirling around and doesn't have a clear chronology, but Serge isn't just controlling his followers' food and literature intake. Followers have gone on the record to say that Serge controlled every aspect of their lives, including their medical treatments. We for sure have some weird treatments going down. It all began in the rooms beneath his brick veneer home on Pineapple Road in Goonaballa, New South Wales. The waiting room walls were painted a deep purple, adorned with a single painting of a nude woman. New Age music drifted softly from the speakers. At least once, a CD titled Silk in the Clouds provided the soundtrack. Oh, so nice. You'll hear that at the end. Some treatments were weird, and some were downright violating. Let's start with the weird. In a healing session that Esther Rocket, more on her later, encountered, she describes the experience as this. She changed the name of the practitioner to Maura. Quote, eyes half closed, Maura began to emit a series of startling belches, not your dainty Perrier burps, but loud, sonorous croaks that seemed to emanate from the bedrock of her base chakra. From those gathered, I learned that each belch was a release of noxious energy drawn up through Maura's powerful hands. The louder the burps, the worse the patient's energetic state, and Maura would remove one hand occasionally and give it a few shakes, a succinct burp accompanying each flick of the wrist, before embarking on a new round of gaseous volleys, all with the stony countenance of a veteran of many violent seances, end quote. Okay, so burping. Okay, sounds good. Get the bad stuff out of the belly, I guess. But then there are the massages. When you think of a massage, you probably picture a relaxing spa day, soothing music, scented oils, maybe even a deep tissue rub to work out those knots. But in universal medicine, massages are not about relaxation. Followers believe they are a form of energetic healing, meant to clear out negative energy and realign the body with the soul's true vibration. Instead of focusing on muscle tension, these sessions are about removing what they call pranic blockages that drain pranic energy that's supposedly stuck in the body. Some of these massages are just light touch, while others involve techniques like chakra puncture, where tiny needles are inserted into energy points to release unwanted energy. Now, here's where things get a little controversial. One of universal medicine's more debated practices is the idea that women store negative energy in their breasts and ovaries. This has led to something called esoteric breast massage. Women are told that their breasts store disease-causing energy, and only through a series of these massages, that's $70 a session, recommended in sets of 10 to 12, sometimes daily, they could rid themselves of those toxic influences. EBM has been promoted to cure or prevent breast cancer by rekindling femaleness. In reality, EBM violates women, or as one massage receiver said, quote, "It was the most horrible thing I've ever had in my entire life," end quote. It causes many women to delay or refuse traditional medicine. Esoteric breast massage clients shun physical intimacy with their partners. One journalist found that within a few weeks, over 40 committed partnerships had broken down. Customers of are pressured into EBM, and many find it deeply unpleasant. Serge also warned against breastfeeding, claiming that mothers could pass that harmful energy in their breasts to their babies through their milk. Now, I don't want to be disrespectful here, but I needed a cocktail for this week's episode. And if Serge is going to focus a little too closely on women's parts, then we got to have a drink that does that too. The Buttery Nipple shot. Sorry. A layered cocktail made with butterscotch, schnapps, and Irish cream liqueur. It's believed to have originated sometime in the 1980s, gaining popularity during a period when drinks with suggestive names like Sex on the Beach were trendy. The name likely refers to the smooth, creamy texture of the drink, with the buttery referencing the butterscotch schnapps ingredients. It's not, don't think about it too much. Just shoot 2 or 3 of them so that you and I can make it through the rest of this episode and not spend close to $1,000 on a dumb massage for no reason. Okay. All right. Conversations with Serge rarely lead to clear conclusions. His words loop endlessly, never quite forming a coherent point. He teaches that his healing work isn't about curing disease or prolonging life, but about becoming more love until reaching the full state of soul with a capital S. This, he says, can take many, many lifetimes. His so-called wisdom extends to other bonkers medical claims. Heart disease is the result of not knowing how to love properly. Brain tumors are caused by unexpressed truths. Mental and physical disabilities are punishments from past lives. Souls reincarnated from corrupt generals, abusive politicians, and cruel dictators. Sexual abuse leaves a disease-causing seed in the victim's body that cannot be cleared without UM's special services, naturally. One of his most chilling beliefs is that autism, Down syndrome, and other disabilities are karmic punishments and incarnations of former tyrants and abusers. This has real, dangerous consequences. While Serge has said that they don't interfere with traditional Western medicine, former devotees have different things to say. There have been allegations that Universal Medicine's registered health practitioners encourage followers to get referrals for Medicare treatment plans to cover their sessions at One former patient who saw a physiotherapist under this plan claimed the therapist said her health was improving through craniosacral pulse therapy. However, after the patient's real doctor ordered tests, she was diagnosed with cancer. Universal Medicine reportedly told her that, quote, "doctors will make you sicker than you already are," end quote. In another case, a thoracic physician and student warned a patient that conventional hormone replacement therapy was dangerous and harmful, and claimed deep-seated grief was a major cause of lung disease. Who's going to help you with that deep-seated grief? Well, Universal Medicine, of course. You see, Universal Medicine isn't just an ideology, it is an unrelenting money-making machine. Followers are sold endless courses of healing to rid themselves of imagined ailments, constantly in fear that they will develop horrific diseases if they stop paying for treatments. But really, what's happening in all of this? Serge is getting rich. Very rich. From one follower, just one, Serge managed to finagle over $1 million of her estate after she died of breast cancer. Judith McIntyre's 2 children, who were left with about 4% of the entire $1.1 million she had after she died, sued Serge, but they actually lost. Get this, she left the money directly to Serge, not to as a whole. Years after the trial, Judith's daughter, Sarah, released emails from her late mother, messages that were apparently deemed inadmissible in court back in 2015. These emails, sent in the final months of Judith's life, paint a troubling picture. They reveal Serge coaching her on how to cut her children out of her fortune, claiming they were, quote, trying to destabilize, end quote, her, and that their actions were actually an attack on funds meant to support the hierarchy, capital H, and their work on Earth. Serge even warned Judith against making her donation public, saying that evil spirits, what he called the Dark Lodge, could bring harm to those who gave money. Theologian and minister David Milliken didn't hold back, saying the emails, quote, reek of coercion and were deeply inappropriate, especially considering the power Serge held over a dying woman. And if that wasn't disturbing enough, shortly before her death, Judith was persuaded by UM staff to record a video where she blamed herself for her breast cancer, saying, quote, I had created the disease by all my self-neglect, my choices, end quote. Her daughter Sarah later reflected on the situation, believing her mother was afraid of what might happen to her in the afterlife if she didn't give Serge the money. Serge's entire family is supported with money from Universal Medicine, something he has confirmed himself. His second wife and all 4 of his kids are getting taxable 6-figure incomes from UM, and they have millions of dollars in property from his UM earnings. And you know, all those people he's manipulated into giving their estates after their death. And some people really do say Universal Medicine is not a cult. I know it's weird. Mostly those are his followers. They're too busy saying that he's a master of the ageless wisdom and the new Messiah and a man of pure and absolute truth whose teachings have the power to expedite the evolution of man on earth. Those are quotes, people. They really believe, that he is the only human to have received the highest level of initiation on earth. Serge himself in 2011 said, quote, I've been a seer and I still am. A true seer attempts to be wrong, not right, fact. And that's the difference when you see an astral influence psychic. They're proving that they're right all the time. And their proof is the accuracy of their predictions. I'd like to be wrong. So what I do is I put out predictions that allow everyone to make a choice for them to not come true. And that's the secret of a true seer, end quote. Y'all. They're just saying words, absolute truth, what truth? Truth of what? Higher level, highest level of initiation? Initiation to what? What is an astral influence psychic? The words, they don't mean anything. Jeez. From 2015 to 2018, Serge sued blogger Esther Rocket for defamation. Esther had visited Serge several times, figured out that he was totally bogus, learned about all the harm he had caused so many people, and made it her personal mission to take him and Universal Medicine down. She blogged about him for years until he sued her. It didn't go nearly as well for Serge as the lawsuit from Judith's children. Serge sued over claims that he was a delusional cult leader and a sexual predator, but the jury overwhelmingly sided with Esther, finding substantial truth in many of her accusations, including those 2 that I just said. Among the damning findings, Serge was deemed to have made bogus healing claims, inappropriately touched multiple clients, preyed on women, and even instructed students in his workshops to touch victims' private parts. The jury also found he vilified people with disabilities, exploited cancer patients for financial gain, and wasn't fit to work with children. The fallout was costly, both financially and reputationally. Serge was ordered to pay Esther's legal fees, which totaled around $1.2 million. His legal team's conduct was also called out, with the judge slamming his lawyers for harassment and unprofessionalism during the trial. Meanwhile, Esther, despite winning the case, was left bankrupt and homeless due to the relentless legal battles. Esther wrote a book with the longest and most on-the-nose title of all time, Universal Predator, A Lone Woman's Fight to Expose Serge Benhayon and His Universal Medicine Cult, The Inside Story. I did read the book for the episode. If you're interested in reading it yourself, be warned, it is long. Serge really put Esther through the ringer, and I'm glad she came out triumphant in the end. Well, sort of. Serge and Universal Medicine made no public acknowledgement of the Supreme Court findings, but in 2019, they did publish a fine print disclaimer on the homepage of their website, stating that none of its beliefs or practices are evidence-based. I'm guessing it's in pretty small font on the page. I didn't even see it, honestly. On capers and cocktails, you all know that we've talked a lot about different ways that cults are defined and broken down. Cult conversion follows a pattern described by some psychiatrists in the US as the 4 Ds: debilitation, deception, dependency, and dread. People in a state of physical or emotional debilitation are deceived into joining, often unaware of the true nature of the group. Once inside, they adopt beliefs that foster dependency on the leader and community, making them reliant for validation, purpose, or even basic needs. Finally, dread keeps them trapped. Fear of punishment, ostracization, or direct consequences if they attempt to leave. This isn't just a theory. Think about Judith. It's the foundation of Serge's entire business model. In January 2020, an Australian court ruled that a mother must sever ties with Universal Medicine, calling it a cult with harmful elements, or lose custody of her daughter. They said shared custody could only continue if the mother broke ties from the group. Otherwise, the child would live with her father full-time. By July 2020, the mother had lost custody for failing to fully disconnect from the group, which the court deemed a source of ongoing harm to her daughter. Overall, UM's so-called healing services don't just fail to help, they actively cause harm. Physically and psychologically, they put people at risk, offering false hope that could delay real medical treatment. Then there's the lifestyle advice, which discourages basic joys in life and can strain family relationships or even break them apart. And let's not forget the financial side, people pouring money into something that ultimately leaves them worse off. Universal Medicine has, according to critics, left a trail of broken families. This cult of Universal Medicine has definitely grown since Serge got his revelation on the porcelain throne of enlightenment. It's mainly based in New South Wales, Australia, but it also has a European headquarters called the Lighthouse in England. He also has followers in other parts of Europe and in North America. By 2015, the community had about 750 regular clients, but more recently in Australia, his courses have been attended by upwards of 15,000 people. It might be because Universal Medicine has gone to great lengths to control its online reputation, hiring a private investigations firm to manage its image. Serge Benhayon insists he has nothing to hide, dismissing media reports as scurrilous lies and part of a vindictive attack. But behind the scenes, he and his associates have aggressively worked to scrub critical content from the internet. Reports indicate that Google Australia removed links to over 15 independent websites, as well as articles from 7 news organizations in response to UM's complaints. According to the Daily Telegraph, 36 blogs were taken down, along with links to critical TV and radio segments. Shockingly, these removals reportedly happened without court orders or even notifying the publishers, effectively erasing much of the public criticism of Universal Medicine from search results. In the end, the promises, the manipulation, the money, it all leads back to one unsettling belief. As Serge Benhayon himself put it, quote, "There is no such thing as death. No one ever dies. We are all immortal. The carnal body, however, is not eternal, and one day it will completely cease. The dark force is the light that serves to preserve this day from coming." End quote. Thanks for hanging out with me. Listen, most people who leave cults do not ask if they are in a cult before they make the decision to leave. They must come to grips with understanding if the group they are in or the environment created is causing them harm and making the decision to leave that harm. There are lots of organizations that can help with that and can help if you suspect someone you love is in a coercive and high-control group. You don't have to do it alone. Cult is just a word, but what it's doing to you or your loved one is what really matters. Next week, we're doing an art theft, but this one has some wild twists and turns and a painting hiding in plain sight. Be sure to pick up the ingredients for a piña colada to go along with the listening. Check the description box for these ingredients. I'll see you next week, and remember, there are always alternatives to bringing people into a cult just so you can touch their, for God's sakes, this will be the only music you can ever listen to.